This is episode 156 of the Rise Up podcast. We're a morning radio show hosted by Steve and Tim on Family Life, a network of stations across New York and Pennsylvania. This podcast is a weekly conversation designed to help you think and laugh and keep your eyes on Jesus. If you haven't already, subscribe today so you don't miss a single episode. And find out more about our show at familylife.org.
Thanks for making us part of your morning routine. It's Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
I've talked about it before, Steve, on this podcast, because whenever Valentine's Day comes around, I think about my and Trinity's first Valentine's Day. Of course, we were dating then, but I like to revisit it with my buddy who, he and I were in college. We were both dating our now wives at the time, and it was the worst. It was the first Valentine's Day. It was the worst Valentine's Day, Steve.
Why was that big?
We both had these big plans. You know, we were like, just started dating. We're like, oh, we're going to do this whole thing, make it Mr. Special. It just, nothing worked out for either one of us. So each year, when I see Valentine's Day come around, I fondly remember disappointment because it's something I got to bond with my buddy over, because John and I, we still talk about it to this day. And we are able also to now laugh at it with our now wives looking back at it. But it does remind me about how love, the big focus commercially anyways of this holiday, gets spun a whole way by our culture. I mean, any number of ways our culture will spin the idea of love are just unhealthy. But love can really encompass things like disappointments that you chose to see the better side of, or sticking through it even when there's hard times, things a lot worse than dates that don't go well. So I think for us as Christians, the conversation of love, I mean, it's just, the door is wide open to deal with the whole range of what life throws us. Communication
and honesty between couples obviously is very key to the whole thing. And the reason I bring that up is there are some couples who I know that celebrating Valentine's Day is not that big a deal. They don't exchange cards. They don't, but they've talked about it. They agree on it. And as long as there's communication and honesty in there, it's not good for one person to say, yeah, it doesn't really mean anything to me, where deep down inside it does. So you have to be open and honest about your feelings. But the shame to me of Valentine's Day, again, every couple is different how they treat it, would be to one day a year on February 14th, tell the other person how much they mean to them and say, I love you, and send them cards and send them things. And then the other 364 days, they don't get that. That's the real shame. So, yeah, it gets down to love is a daily thing. It's like, what can I do today? February 9th, April 14th, September 9, whatever, know what I'm saying?
Just to name a few.
Yeah, just to name a few of the days. You have choices. But again, if it's important to the other person or to both of you, then you should celebrate in a way that's meaningful. So it's a communication and honesty thing among couples. And again, it's so much focused on couples and marriages. And I remember Valentine's Day starting when I was probably first, second grade, where you get the little cards on your desk from your little friends, and you had a bunch of them, and the little candy, non-tasting chalk-like hearts that be mine, those kind of things. So it means so many different things to not just married couples, but to other people, to feel loved. And feeling loved is a thing we all want, desire, and should show other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should be a feel-good day regardless, even if you're just going back to those grade school memories. Yeah. Man, Valentine's little cards, those were the coolest thing. So you talked about communication and like what a couple agrees they're kind of hoping for, planning for the holiday. That's such a good point, because Steve, Trinity and I are basically one of those couples who say like, now remember, nothing for me for Valentine's Day this year. Like sometimes Trinity will even say it. She'll say like, don't buy me flowers.
Sure.
And there are other times where, and honestly, really interestingly, Steve, to your point, she would probably rather get flowers on April 22nd because it means more to her if it's just like, I was just thinking of you, not like, oh, I had to do it, so I ran to the store and did the thing husbands have to do.
Right.
Those are real too, and I get that. The expectations are a real big part of communication. There's expectations for a big holiday, but I mean, this year, I really think that this idea of expectations goes beyond the romantic relationship. It goes into like any relationship that you want to be like intentional about in life. I heard this quote this morning on a podcast, And I thought, that's really good. And it comes to the table in this conversation. Here it is. Unmanaged expectations are premeditated resentment.
Can you say that again?
I sure can, because
Please.
I need to hear it more than once.
Okay.
A lot of big words. Unmanaged expectations are premeditated resentment. So here's the thing.
Okay.
We're all going to have expectations in our relationships. You can't help it. They're going to be there. And you know, some of them, though, you can work on. And some of them you can say, all right, what is reasonable to expect here? What's healthy to expect here? And if it's in a really intentional, close relationship, what do I need to communicate to this other person? Because sometimes that's really important, that I expect in this relationship. Okay, so I got to manage that expectation, because if I don't, and I have all these expectations of you and I'm not telling you about it and I'm not being realistic in my own head about it, well, then it's just as good as if I'm planning to resent you in the future, when inevitably you don't measure up. Because I've got all these expectations of you, and why didn't you know? Why didn't you read my mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that a phrase
Oh, yeah. You can't read my mind.
It's like, well, yeah.
Right.
The irony of that.
Right.
So if I don't manage my own expectations, I'm going to be dealing with resentment, and I'm setting myself up for that. Can I share one little example of this?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of silly, but I think it was important. So Trinity and I relate over music a lot. Like she especially will be like, "Hey, I found this song," and then share it with me, and I really like that. That's cool, because I don't find a lot of new artists or music, but that's something she enjoys doing, so she'll share music with me. Every now and then I'll find something and I'll be like, "Hey, I want you to hear this song," and play it for her, but it's pretty rare. So this happened recently. I was playing her a song, and we have 2 little kids, so distractions come up. So, it's totally understandable, but she was interacting with one of the kids, and this whole thing was happening while I was sharing the song. And I was going to just let the song keep playing that I'm trying to share with her. And I realized I was feeling upset. I was like, wait, why am I feeling upset? I got to do something about this. Just ignore it. Just go with it. Well, it's not going away. So I just paused the song. I'm like, I've got an expectation here. I didn't realize I had an expectation. I didn't realize it was an unmanaged expectation. So I had to communicate it. I was like, hold on, honey, I have to tell you this. This isn't your fault. I'm paraphrasing. This isn't your fault, but I'm feeling some frustration, and it's not your fault, but I don't share a lot of songs. So I just want you to be able to focus on this. So will you be able to focus on this? And I can start it over from the beginning. And she's like, yeah, thanks for telling me.
Sure.
And then when the song had finished, she was like, it was a really beautiful song. She's like, I'm so glad you told me that, because I'm really glad I listened to all of it. But I needed to learn that. You
have to manage your expectations.
She doesn't deserve my resentment.
Right.
I need to not plan on being resentful here. I need to manage this for myself and communicate it. So long-winded way of saying, we got to manage and sometimes communicate those expectations to avoid that resentment we don't want to plan on having.
Final couple things for me, and Tim, I know you know your alphabet pretty well. And
A, B, C, D.
Exactly, and love begins with an L, and I have 2 L words to finish up on my thoughts about love and Valentine's Day. One is so important, and I need to work on it every day, is listening. I think the other person wants to just be heard and seen and felt, and so many times where we as guys especially, want to help and do and that kind of thing, and just on a daily basis, 365 days a year, 66 in a leap year, another L word, leap. But anyway, you need to listen to the other person, not be so quick to speak, and the Bible talks about that. So listen is my 1 L word, and the other L word, which I think you can agree on, which is really important, is lasagna.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. You've listened to my heart before, Steve.
See, that's your love language. Love is lasagna. And so it's silly example, but learn what another L word, learn by listening and serve lasagna to the right person. But I mean, those things, know what the other person wants and what speaks to them and speaks to their heart, not only on February 14th, but all throughout the year.
You got to listen, because you can't just read their minds.
Right.
Yep. It's a good one.
You want lasagna?
You did read my mind there, though. That's for sure.
We hope the rest of your day is just as much fun as this. You're listening to Rise Up on Family Life.
Hi. Are you taking calls for a contest?
No.
Oh.
But we're saying hi to you.
Thank you so much.
What kind of contest should we
think
have?
I don't even know.
Just say 14. I always go with 14 as the answer.
14.
That always gets them. That's always good.
Well, you know what, guys? I just read in my devotions this morning there was 14 generations in the lineage leading up to Jesus being born. So that might be why you choose it.
I have no idea what
generations.
Only God knows.
Yeah,
that.
look it up in Matthew in the lineage, and it says there's 3 sets of 14 before Jesus came on the earth.
What?
So it's in Matthew in the lineage.
Cool.
Hey,
What is your first name?
Oh, my name's Gale.
Gale, thanks so much for
And
calling.
I run a daycare. Can everybody say hi? We run a daycare here. Everybody say hello.
Well, that's a
do
great.
devotions with the kids now.
God bless you, Gale, for what you do. You're a joy to talk to.
Oh, thank you. And God bless you guys. We love your ministry and we love your radio station.
Thanks.
Been a long-time listener.
Say
All
hi to
right,
the
bye
kids.
now.
Bye-bye.
Hey, bye, kids. Say bye, kids.
Here we go. It's another new day. You're listening to Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
Don't think the book of Habakkuk doesn't have anything to say about egg prices.
Whoa.
Steve.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Habakkuk, little book in, the Old Testament in your Bible, nestled in there, one of the prophets. Well, it kind of does have something to say about maybe what you're feeling right now. This tiny book, among other things, it deals with facing tough times. And I love this set of verses. It's in Habakkuk 3. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vine, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God the Lord is my strength. Now it's like, wait, hold on. Why would I care? Why should I care if figs aren't growing? Well, picture ancient Israel. If you're in a country where figs and grapes were a major part of the provisions of the economy, you'd be feeling pretty nervous if there's nothing growing on the tree, if there's nothing on the vine. So thinking of Habakkuk here in these terms, though a carton of eggs costs $5.50, yet I will rejoice in the Lord when I'm facing more than just high prices. I will take joy in the God of my salvation.
Thanks for making us part of your morning routine. It's Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
It's a dying art. It's kind of sad, but let's say, for instance, if you were given a piece of paper and had to read a different language, it's very tough.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't understand what it even says on there. Well, the dying art, it's not even a different language. It's reading cursive.
Oh, how did I know you were going to say that?
National Archive, if you can read cursive, National Archives would like a word, or actually a few million, because there's 200 years worth of U.S. documents needing transcribing for classified things. And the vast majority is from the Revolutionary War era, and it's all written in cursive.
Thank you, Mrs. Givens.
There you go.
Yes,
So
I'm prepared for this.
If you're interested in transcribing, the U.S. Archives is looking for you. You can go to archives.gov and find out more about it. But with all the typewriter, the computer, and the texting of these days, there's many younger people who can't even read cursive. They don't understand. If, by the way, you do reach the archives.gov and say you're interested and they get back with you, don't write back BRB. I'm busy, BRB. They might not respond again.
May the blessings of the Lord be with you in all that you do today. This is Rise Up on Family Life.